Hello, my name is Sarah, welcome back to my channel. This is just a quick introduction video to a vlog that I filmed a couple of weeks ago where I went to the Isle of Arran. I've just come to edit it and realised that I have no introduction, which was very rude of me. So yeah, please enjoy this vlog of me visiting Arran for the first time. It's a beautiful island in Scotland, and I was reading some books to get me into the spooky season. Really enjoying sort of the turn of the seasons. It's definitely a lot more autumnal now than it was when I filmed this video, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Hello, I'm sitting on the bed. I wanted to film, there's like a little patio sort of in front of me, and I wanted to film there, but the light is so shocking, and I'm saying that filming in this, like, this is awful quality. Yeah, it was horrendous over there, so enjoy the messy bed in the background and the aesthetic that isn't necessarily to my taste. But I am on Arran now, and I don't know why I thought I could read 2 full books while I'm here. I spent the whole day walking yesterday, and I was just so tired when I got back because I left to get my ferry at... I left my house at 6:30 and finally got to Arran, because there are like ferry delays yesterday. I finally got to Arran at 10:30. It was more like 11 o'clock by the time we'd got off the ferry and everything. And then I just went walking, and I came back from walking, went out to dinner in the hotel and had a really nice vegan steak, and I was just exhausted when I got back. So yeah, I didn't really read anything yesterday. I tried doing some reading on the train. I listened to my audiobook on the train because I can't read a physical book on the train because of the motion. The train's normally okay, but I was a bit worried about it because I was so tired. And then on the ship I just spent the whole time in the toilet. It was horrendous. The captain actually said over the tunnel, he was just like, this won't be a pleasant journey, so apologies to everybody. And it was not a pleasant journey. The sea was really rough and I get seasick. I get quite a lot of motion sickness anyway, but like particularly bad seasickness, so that was a horrendous hour and a half of my life, and I've got to go and do it all again in a minute, so that should be fun. So yeah, I read probably about, I think I listened to about an hour in total of The Ghost Woods, why did I call it The Ghost World? The Ghost Woods by Cooke, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I feel like I'm not far into it enough to commit fully to saying that I'm enjoying it, but we're following. So the novel opens in a time, in like the then time, and it's the late 1950s. We follow a girl called Mabel who is 17 and finds out she's pregnant. She's adamant that she is still a virgin, so she can't possibly have got pregnant. and then we've sort of flashed forward to like the main narrative of the story, which is following a girl called Pearl, who is in her early 20s and unmarried, and she falls pregnant too, and she is sent to, rather than sent to an institution, she's sent to this kind of home for pregnant unwed mothers who will stay there with the baby until the baby is adopted, and then they'll go back home to try and continue with their lives as if nothing has happened. And when Pearl gets to this house, it's in the Scottish borders, and it's all a bit creepy. The family are sort of shrouded in this like local mystery of what happened about 15 years ago, like when their son died, and it's just very creepy. It's giving Mexican Gothic vibes because there's a lot of mushrooms, like the east wing of the building is closed off because it's just like overrun with mushrooms and mold and fungus, and it stinks and it's gross. And I think CJ Cooke's really good at capturing atmosphere. That's the main reason that I read her writing. I think I said earlier in the blog that she's a very hit and miss writer for me, but I always really enjoy the atmosphere that she creates, and I'm hoping we'll continue to get a really creepy Gothic kind of tale. I loved Mexican Gothic and like the mushroom, like really earthy Gothic imagery. That's something I really enjoy, and so I think I'll like this one just based on that. But yeah, I haven't read too much of that. My plan is to read that on the way home, so if I can cope with the ship, it's a bit calmer today, so I'm hoping I can just sit in a corner, put my audiobook on and just forget about feeling unwell. But I'll definitely listen to it on the train back from the harbour to my house. The other book that I've been reading, like I mentioned in the start, is The Cloisters by Katy Hayes, and I've read about 50 pages of this. I sat by the stream and read this yesterday. It was so nice. It was a really sunny day. Wasn't expecting the weather to be nice at all yesterday, but it was beautiful. So I just sat by the stream, river, whatever, a nice body of flowing water, and read some of this. And this is, again, like I feel like this is a bit of a pointless update because, like I said, I'm not very far through either of them, so I can't commit to saying that I'm enjoying them because I'm still getting into the story. This follows a girl called Anne who is, I think she's just finished a postgrad, I want to say. She goes to a very prestigious university, but she has always sort of kept on the outside because she lives at home. She's not one of the many sort of rich students that pass through this, and she's applying for opportunities to study a PhD and keeps getting rejected, and she ends up getting a summer internship at the Met in New York, which she is really excited to do, but when she gets there they're just like, oh sorry, we don't have a place for you anymore, and she gets whisked away to the Cloisters, which is like a building outside of the city that's still associated with the Met but isn't the Met, and she's just kind of put to work on research there. But you're getting a lot of very rich imagery again, which I really like. I do enjoy the writing style at the moment. There's not a huge amount going on yet, so it's hard to tell if it's going to be plot driven or if it's just going to be sort of hinged on the writing style and the characters. But yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to keep reading it. I really like our main character specialises in the Renaissance period and is very knowledgeable about this period, obviously, because she's applying to do a PhD in it. So we get a lot of background about that, which I find really interesting. And the Cloisters itself specialises in medieval history, and in particular tarot cards is something that's just been introduced in the novel. And I think it says at the on the cover, if death was in the cards, would you want to know? And I think this is going to be very much based on like a creepy tarot deck. so I'm into it. I'm not sure if I showed you already, but look at those what do you call these, end papers? I guess they're end papers. It's just like this cover, it's like tarot cards. So cool. Really love this. So yeah, this I think probably won't read until I'm home because I don't want to be sick again on public transport. I was a little bit disappointed when I was there because it wasn't particularly autumnal. It was really nice because the weather was gorgeous and it was just nice to walk around like a t-shirt and enjoying basking in the sun, but it wasn't quite the autumnal vibe I was going for. Now it very much is autumn, and I've just filmed a book haul, so I've got my nice background set up and a lovely candle and it's just all cozy, and yeah, I'm really well and truly in the autumn spirit now. And I've also finished a book. I finished The Cloisters by Katy, and I didn't like this, unfortunately. I didn't think it was a bad book, I just don't think it was for me. So maybe I'll just recap the premise of this. This follows a woman called Anne who has just finished up with her degree and ends up interning at what she thinks will be the Met over the summer while she figures out what to do with her life because she's been rejected from various doctoral programs. She ends up not interning at the Met itself, but is sent rather to the Cloisters, which is a museum specialising in kind of medieval art and the occult. And she's sent there to work with this quite intense professor called Patrick and his other assistant Rachel, and both of them are very wealthy and have always kind of occupied that space within wealth and within money, and that's something that Anne is very new to and doesn't really know how to behave around these people. I think it does a really good job of discussing wealth disparity within academia and how difficult it is to feel at home within academia when you don't come from money. And in particular, Anne is it's not that she doesn't have a lot of money, like her family were poor. Her father's died and she's come to live in New York to just try and get away from that old town, which is she finds very suffocating. But then ironically she kind of becomes sucked into this world of academia and becomes very suffocated by it. One of the things I was getting really frustrated about with this book was that there is no character development at all, and I think that's a deliberate choice because we're really seeing how Anne's life just entirely revolves around the Cloisters and her work at the Cloisters, and furthering her career in academia she becomes just completely obsessed with it and embroiled in all these very toxic, intense friendships and relationships with people. Just her whole world is the Cloisters, and it's very suffocating, and it's suffocating to read, and I just didn't get along with that at all. I think it's very well done, and I think Katy has a beautiful writing style. It just wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy reading about it at all. I couldn't connect with these characters in any way. I didn't like them, I didn't root for them, I didn't find them interesting. There was just nothing about them that was compelling me to keep reading, and it's not a very plotty book either, which I think I could have forgiven the character development if there had been more going on in terms of the plot, but there wasn't. We have a lot of beautiful rich descriptions about the Cloisters and about the art within the Cloisters, and just about how oppressive the summer heat is. the writing's gorgeous, but it's just so very slow. And I got to like 20 pages before the end and thought, where is this going? I just don't know how you're gonna wrap this up. I thought the twist was, I mean, we kind of guess there's, I don't want to give too much away because something happens within the middle of the book, and I don't want to spoil that for you because that really is the only thing that happens. So if you know that that's coming, then I kind of think you just be like, well, why am I gonna keep reading this? I just think it was really obvious, the motive for the person to do what they did. I know it's really vague. It's really hard to talk about it without giving spoilers. I think Rachel as a character, her backstory, it should have been interesting, but it wasn't. And I think it was kind of really obvious what was going on with that. We got a final twist at the end that I didn't really see it coming, but I also like had to look it up at the end to just check that I'd understood that that was actually something that had happened. But yeah, it was just very, very slow, and the payoff wasn't worth it for me. I think if it had great writing and great character development, like, it would have been a very different novel. It wouldn't have been this novel, but I would have enjoyed the reading experience more. Or if we'd sacrificed the character development to illustrate how oppressive this world of academia is, but we'd had the pacing, then I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But yeah, unfortunately, as it stood, I just didn't care for it at all. And yeah, it was really disappointing for me because I thought this could have been really intriguing and really interesting to read about, but I just found myself really skimming the part about the tarot as well, and the tarot was the thing that kept me the most, it's the thing that grabbed my attention the most. The reason I wanted to read it was because I thought, oh, like a dark academia where the characters study tarot, that sounds incredible. But yeah, that I just didn't care for that either. So yeah, unfortunately this was a 2-star, but I would read other things that Katy Hayes writes, depending on the synopsis, obviously, because I do think her writing style was very good. Moist Woods by CJ Cooke. I loved this book. I thought it was really, really good. I gave it 4 stars, and I don't think it's quite my favourite CJ Cooke yet, but I still enjoyed it nevertheless. It was so creepy and atmospheric, and yeah, just like it was genuinely quite scary at times. I think I've made comparisons previously in this video to Mexican Gothic, and I do think that still stands because the mushroom imagery just increases if anything. And yeah, at first I was really unsure about the character of Pearl, and I was thinking, oh, I really do not like reading about this woman, and I much preferred Mabel's segments. But as we went on, I sort of warmed to Pearl a little bit. I still think Mabel's one of my favourite segments, but they sort of come together as we get further on in the novel and we start to see them sort of more side by side. And yeah, I don't really know what to say about it without giving away too much of the plot. I don't know what I've said already. Basically, we have Mabel in the 1950s who goes to stay at Leichenhall to give birth to her son before he's adopted, and we have Pearl doing the same thing in 1965. Both are unmarried mothers, and that's sort of said to bring shame upon them and their families, and it would be sort of like they'd be outcasts if they continued to raise their children as unmarried mothers. The hall is run by a woman called Mrs. Whitlock, who is a very sinister character and is prone to like very angry outbursts, and the girls are very much trapped in this hall. It's very remote, there's no way for them to get out, the phone line is often dead, and I think that's what makes CJ Cooke's writing so terrifying a lot of the time, is just the thought that they can't escape the situation that they're in. So I really liked that. There's a big trigger warning for child death and sexual assault within this, and some of the scenes were maybe a little bit like painful to read because of this, but yeah, overall I really enjoyed it, and I don't want to give too much away because there's not a huge amount of plot. We're just following these girls who are at the hall isolated and are starting to see things, like a woman in the woods, or like they start to hallucinate seeing these mushrooms come alive, and we're not really sure whether it's the supernatural or whether it's trauma that's causing these things. But yeah, just typical CJ Cooke writing style, very atmospheric, creepy, gothic, just what I wanted. The ending I thought was mostly satisfying. There are a few strands that I wasn't hugely sure of, such as Pearl and her boyfriend Sebastian. I didn't really like the way that ended. I thought I needed a bit more exploration, and also the relationship between Pearl and her mother I think could have been explored in a lot more depth. But yeah, overall really liked it, and like I said, a 4-star read. So that's all the books that I'm going to read in this vlog. I'm going to close it out here. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you'll been able to see how the season has really shifted in September from just being like still quite summery when I started out the vlog to being well and truly autumn by the time I finished filming. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you have any recommendations for me based on CJ Cooke, then I'd love to hear them. But yeah, I'll leave you there. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.